Earlier I mentioned, what do people talk about at the dinner table? What do you talk about at Christmas and Thanksgiving and on a Saturday? I mean, a lot of the time families, really try to keep it separate. But when you're in the middle of a succession plan and a changeover, it's everywhere.
That was Megan Monette McDaniel, G2 Vice President of National Accounts at Total Office Solutions, discussing how difficult it can be to establish boundaries between family and family business in the midst of a generational transition. We'll hear more from Megan, her sister Amy, and their mother Linda later in the episode. Welcome to the Family Business Family Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Needles, Editor-in-Chief of Family Business Magazine. This episode also features more of my conversations with David Colby and Amy Brusky, step-siblings and G2 leaders of behavioral assessment company Colby Corp., as well as with Travis Holman, G2 CEO of Holman Inc., the world's largest locker manufacturer. This is a jam-packed episode, so let's get to it. Here's part 2 of my very candid conversation with Travis Holman.
So now I'm out of a job.
Yeah.
I'm, away from my father. I end up going to the doctor. I was in great shape at the time, thought I was having a heart attack. It was panic attacks.
Yeah.
And through all that stuff, because of all the stress. And, basically been fired. And, I'm in my mid 30s and what's interesting about this business that we have now, which is we make a product, we make lockers is what we do.
Yeah.
And it's a direct sale to end consumer. And, I think people can relate to it. It's just a business. I can't even explain it. I just understand the business.
Yeah.
For some reason, this particular business, if you ask me a question to this day, I can tell you an answer within 1 minute, and it's probably 90% correct of what happened. And
you just get it. You just intuitively get this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I just get it. And anyway, so I took off then, and when I left Holman was doing about 28 million in business and got down to went up to 32. My dad got divorced, went back to Asia, and I did all these different things, which I made money at, but didn't understand the business. I made some money, lost some money.
Yep.
But I was still kind of longing to be at Holman because I just get it here.
Yeah.
And so, back to Holman, I get a call one day from the CFO that still knows me and the guy that's running the plants. And they're like, "We got to talk to you." And I said, "What?"
Yeah.
"Well, your dad got divorced." I said, "I know." And he goes, "Well, he went back to Asia. He's been gone for like 2 years." And I said, "I know that too." And he goes, "Well, no one's running the place, right?" For 2 years. And we're back down to, we're back down to, $6.5 million in revenue.
Yeah.
30 employees. We have a 360,000 square foot plant. So that's not a lot of people for that thing. We're losing money and we think we're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
You got to do something. I said, "Well, where is he?" They said, "He's in Thailand." Go to Thailand and see him. So I went to Thailand. Again, I did exactly what I did the first time. We said, "I'll take it over." We made a deal to purchase it. The same sort of thing, which you can't, I should have learned my lesson the first time. Didn't. Trusted family again, came back. We took it from 6 million. I called up Dad, 6.8 million at the time. I called my dad up, worked my ass off, and I'm like, "Dad, get over here. Let's sign this paper. I'm buying this place." Well, I really don't see him much for about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
In and out a little bit. Finally, and that was in 2011. Finally, 2015, by this time, we're up to about $40 million from 6. And I called him and said, "Dad, I'm going to leave. You did this to me last time. I don't own any of this company anymore." He was paying a bonus at that point in time. We didn't have a thing. He did keep his idea on that. I said, "I can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
And so finally we made a deal to sell Holman to me. And we had it appraised.
Yeah.
Didn't want to be unfair. So we had it appraised and then he wanted, and we're about ready to sign papers. He goes, "Well, your other brother's sisters have to own half of it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Why?
They don't work here. I'm paying for it. They can have the cash, Nope.
Yeah.
And so My sister and I were best friends at the time. We'd been best friends since we were kids. The only real, like, 100% sister. He's got 3 other kids with 2 other people after that. And I said,
Yeah.
so finally I said to him, I said, okay, there's a lock company that makes a lock for us. I said, give the other kids the lock company. I will take my sister with me. And so my
Yeah.
sister ended up with about 50% ownership. I ended up with 50% ownership, but I'm the only one working.
Right.
So I said to my sister is a really good realtor. I said to, our deal was we'd make some money. You'll start a real estate company. You're going to work there. I'll work here. We're combining everything. Let's grow some wealth.
Yeah.
So that kind of did that. So after I got done, after we bought the place, by the way, on buying the place, of course, we're there on the thing. He decides he wants an extra $1 million the day of closing. And
Right.
then he decides to give $1 million to Jesuit High School that day and writes a check out of the thing 30 minutes before we close the deal. And
Oh my gosh.
so
Right.
all of a sudden we close the deal and he gets, I think he's happy. I'm happy. My sister's got to be very happy. I'm sitting there going, okay, we're now I've got the deal closed and now I've got the company, but I only own, I own 51%. She's 49 pretty much. And we start going forward on the deal. And all of a sudden I get a thing and wants to hire a lawyer. He wants his company back.
Right.
I stole it from him, quote unquote. I'm like, what are you talking about? So we go
Jeez.
through this whole stole thing, and I'm like, you signed the papers, you've been paid, you're getting paid, everything else. He did not like it. And, my sister is, just living her life in LA and I'm working here and, going through the stress of everything else. And finally he ended up, unfortunately for me, getting sick.
Yeah.
Parkinson's. And, and Parkinson's, for anybody else that kind of goes through what I went through, it kind of slowed him down. And then he came back to Dallas. He couldn't really travel as much anymore. And, for the last 3 years of his life, I pretty much took care of him. And it was the first time that he ever said in all those years of working for him and doing things that he was proud of what I was doing.
Yeah.
It kind of
Wow.
did that to shake him up to that point.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sad. It was just, he just wasn't one to, give compliments. In fact, one of the interesting things is once we moved past $30 million, he'd never been above 30 million.
Yeah.
He was really pissed off. We got in a huge fight. He goes, I don't want it to go any bigger than this. This is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Dad, you're not running the place anymore.
Right.
And we got in a really big fight over it. And it's just because my dad was really competitive with me. Growing up, if I beat him at something, he wouldn't do the sport anymore.
Wow.
He was just a very, very ultra competitive personality. I mean, one time we were so competitive. One time we were in a racquetball tournament and I beat my guy to go to the finals. He loses to his guy not to go to the finals. And I play in the finals, beat the guy. Walking out and everybody's there. There's like 30 people watching. What's wrong with your dad? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, he's rooting for the other guy the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
I said, what? And he said, yeah, he was rooting for the other guy to beat you the entire 3 matches.
Wow. Wow.
Man,
oh man. Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's tough working for your family. But
I mean, it's like you said, your dad multiple times over the years said, hey, if you don't like what I'm doing, you can sue me. But and we've talked to people who have sued their dads or vice versa. You don't want to have to get to that point though, and families are messy to begin with. When you add business and money on top of it, it's very complicated.
I've had people go, oh, you're running your dad's business. I'm like, first of all, I bought it. Second of all, I've grown it to, we're passing the $100 million mark already. And, so we've grown it from, that was 6 million, 6.8 when I took it over last time.
Yeah.
So we've done well. But, it's not easy. If I would have had my family probably not involved, I guarantee you more effort, we'd probably be better off than we are now. A third of my effort is fighting with my sister, arguing with my dad, doing something that's non-value add for a business.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'm curious because
a lot of times I'll talk to somebody who is second generation, took over the business from their dad or started working with their dad, and their dad was like the man, right? And it sounds like your dad was obviously a big personality, knew what he was doing, at least to a certain extent as a businessman. But it's like, man, how do I fill my dad's shoes? In your case, there were a lot of times where the employees were kind of scratching their heads like, where he's in Asia again, and we don't have anybody running the business. So what was it like? A lot of times we talk to people who are like, I really had to earn the trust of the employees because they didn't think I was going to be as good as my dad. What was your experience like just trying to like keep that business going and grow it when they were used to working for your dad, but that was kind of an erratic experience for them, right?
My dad was, my dad was so erratic. I think I was the calming piece of it.
Okay.
Like I said, when I said he would leave and just leave whoever's, literally he would get up, take off the next day. Some people wouldn't even know. He had a meeting one time in Oregon with a new hire, and he didn't show up to the meeting and got on a plane, went to Asia. The new hire the guy was a friend of mine, worked for him, never even met him.
Wow.
And quit before he got back.
Yeah.
He had never showed up to even interview the guy. The guy he called and said, okay, it's Nima, it wasn't Nima back then. He called and said, okay, you got the job, you start. And then he was gone. But it wasn't what our thing is. Yeah. The employees have to trust you. Any trust in a company, comes with results.
Yeah.
And produce results. You can go anybody that's, these younger people that if you're taking over your family business, I was very lucky. I had a mom that was absolutely all about work. And I don't think very many people, now I'm getting older, probably can outwork me now, but at my younger years, there was nobody that could outwork me.
Yeah.
And that really helped me out. But having the dad that just took off also helped me out in a weird way. It was a weird thing, but no one else wanted to grab it because the last like 3 or 4 people that had grabbed the reins had been fired as soon as he got back.
Right.
They were saying, it was kind of like hot potato at the time. And I was probably dumb enough to grab the reins, but it worked out well because the results were there. And when you start getting results, and people are always waiting for somebody to take the blame, so to speak, or to take control.
Yeah.
Probably the blames a lot of times too. And, even to this day, we have my CFO just left to whatever. And there was a couple of things we found. We're going through the things. This is just, last couple of days and finding a couple of things that need to be fixed or whatever. And, my girl's like, well, this is one of the girls in the thing. She's like, I know I'm in the accounting department. This isn't my fault. I said, no, it's my fault. I'm the owner. My fault.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a good thing to have if you're taking over a business, if you're, all the, whether you did it or not, you hired the people that did it, you put the process in place. The other advantage I had is my dad was, everybody thought he was a brilliant businessman. He was good, but he was a great great thinker on way to get new products. He was a designer. He was a kind of a technician kind of guy. I really don't think he was a great businessman.
Yeah.
And so
he was an ideas guy.
He was an ideas guy.
Yeah.
That his ideas were so good that he made money on them.
Right.
But it wasn't, Home and Ink, there's, I don't know if you know anything about cabinets, but there's a frameless cabinet that's everybody uses now. It's got, in the old days, it was face frame, which is a way to, how to build cabinets in America. Now it's all frameless, which is a European style. My dad was the first frameless cabinet shop in America.
Wow.
That's how cutting edge he was on his thought process. He was an inventor, but, to take it from an invention to a business model, I think I've been better at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a different skill set, which made it nice. Him and I would have been great together if we could have worked together, but it just, his personality, my personality, when it came to things, just wasn't the same.
Right.
He'd get mad, tell a customer to go jump in the lake, so to speak. And I'd be like, oh, don't do that. It took me 2 years to get that customer.
Yeah.
I got him Lifetime Fitness, and he told the CEO of Lifetime Fitness to go to hell one time. And I was like, oh, please don't go to hell. You're one of our best customers. Please don't do that. Um,
Oh my
but
gosh.
that's kind of the way he was. But so there's, yeah, you really got to, hopefully you have a different, if you're a family business, hopefully you have a different skill set, than
Yeah.
your family does. I don't know too many family businesses that have gone smoothly when I talk to people about it. I don't
Oh yeah. Yeah.
see that as
Definitely.
much. You have a much better chance to go buy a business from a random person and that'll go smoothly.
Yeah.
Um, because there's so much emotion in it.
Yeah.
My deal was just to make my dad happy,
Right.
and I didn't really get any of that until it was on his deathbed,
Right.
later in life. But yeah, it was, yeah, it's tough. It's a really hard thing. Now,
It is.
good things about it, a working business to take, second generation. I think if you got an inventor that can invent and get the business going, and I'm second generation, to take the business from X to X, I think is much easier. I've started businesses. I think that's much harder.
Yeah.
To
Absolutely.
take them from X to X, I think is easier. But you got to work hard. A lot of people that I know that are second generation, they don't put the work in and the time in,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so it takes a lot of time, a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I am curious, like, because you have these big organizations that are customers, NFL and Apple and Goldman Sachs. How did you grow the business? Because, obviously it's great business model. You have these lockers. Somebody's got to make these lockers. There's a lot of people who need lockers, but how do you kind of like expand, and where were you expanding to with this?
So, back in the day, there was a thing called Sweets Catalog where you put your brochure and you get paid to put your brochure, and each page cost money.
Yeah.
And so everybody in our business had 4 pages. And one day I'm like, you know what? We're putting 12 pages in.
Yeah.
Everybody else has 4, we're gonna have 12.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the business went straight up. I didn't
Wow.
think it through. I didn't run ROI on it. I didn't do anything. It was a thing that was kind of like, 12 is better than 4,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we started selling athletic clubs and we were getting all these back then, all these mom and pa's. I'm like, oh my God, this is just too much work. Let me go out and get any chain account possible. Well,
Right.
all the mom and pa's are gone now. All the chain accounts rocked. We've been in we've been doing LA Fitness since 1997 or something like that. I mean, we've been doing
Wow.
Planet Fitness and Lifetime and Equinox
Yeah.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and then, the thing that really hit home and off in the first time I was here was that 3-month trip. I put samples in my back of my car.
Yeah.
I literally drove on the road every day for 3 months. I did not come
Yeah.
home. I had a cell phone back in the day. You had no GPS in your cell phone. It wasn't invented yet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you just went from place to place to place and outworked everybody. And
Yeah.
we just outworked everybody. And now, we're so much bigger than our I mean, we're really a lot bigger than our competition, but it's most of our competition. We got some new guys now, but everybody kind of started then with my dad's age, and none of the kids wanted it. I'm the only kid that took over business.
Wow.
All the other things have pretty much dried up because the kids didn't want them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So they want the money. They don't want
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me also, you'd mentioned that you've started businesses, and I wanted to hear about MeSpace, because the other thing you think about is like, okay, well, like if all the people who need lockers in the world have lockers from you guys, like what's the next step, right? What's the evolution of a locker? So tell me a little bit about what MeSpace is and how you came up with that.
So, um, I'm neurodiverse, which I flunked 3rd grade with dyslexia. I'm ADHD. I've, given talks about it. I think it's a gift. I think it's a huge gift.
Yeah.
And my youngest kid is neurodiverse, and my oldest kid is now, got tested. He's neurodiverse.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm looking at offices, and the first time I ever went in, it was up in Delaware. Went into one of these flat open offices. What they were doing is they had these 2 flat, like 80s buildings, not just 1-story buildings like this flat thing. And it was actually for JP Morgan, for some of their technology, where they do a lot of their cyber tech, um, and this or cybersecurity. And
Yeah.
I walked in, they had 2 buildings, and they were going to get rid of one of the buildings, and they were going to move all the people. They had about 2,000 people in each building roughly. And they're going to move all the people to one building, go to flat offices.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
went up there, and I remember walking in, and I almost felt like sick to my stomach going, I could not work here. The person
In an open floor plan, right? Where everybody's just,
walking around you. I
no
mean,
walls.
so I looked at that and went, oh my God, this is horrible. And
Yeah.
then we built, we were lucky enough to build University of Alabama football, which was
Yeah.
the first, which I helped design, which was the first fully enclosed locker where people could sleep in it and kind of everything you have is all around you. And I went,
Wow.
that's kind of cool. And all these little phone booths were out, and the phone booths have these glass, and people are looking at you and studying you, and you feel like you're in a fishbowl. And then there's, they're airtight and quiet. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't work for me either. And so
Yeah.
one day I said, we're going to build this me space, and we're going to build an office, and we're going to build it, small, but something you can work in all day. And it's not going to be soundproof, and it's not, and we built all these things. And so we started building it, and it was made for the neurodiverse people.
Yeah.
So it's not soundproof. It's 16 decibel sound protective.
Yeah.
But it's not soundproof. And
Yeah.
and so we started doing it. We started getting this company called Neurables, which is it goes on your head. It's a headphone. You can listen to music on it. But Neurables starts reading your brainwaves. We can tell when you're focused and everything else. So we got in the Neurables and started everything else and started really producing this product using science and everything else. And we've got roughly with Neurables about a 26% increase in cognitivity and productivity inside of our me space.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is it was made for the ADHD, the dyslexics and everything else. But we're getting the same reading with everybody else. So we've created a space where people can go in and be productive.
Again, from your family who decided to get into the business at Holman, do you see a third gen? I know you mentioned you have kids. Do you see any of your kids that like it's potential that they might want to do what you do?
I mean, I got a 14 and a 16-year-old. Kids are so different.
Yeah.
I do know this, that if they want to, yes, I'd love to have them here. Unfortunately, I had kids at a little later age, so if I am here, I'm going to have to work till about 70
to work with them.
Maybe longer than that. But
Yeah.
I don't know where the world's changing so fast right now. It scares me.
Yeah.
I do know this. Their lockers will be around for a long time.
Yeah.
We're making a solid product that you can't get out of AI. We might be able to produce them with robots, but you're not going to be able to design them and sell them and do the whole thing for a long time. Maybe someday it will all be, AI and taking the orders and placing the orders, whatever. But I think that's a long time away for right now. So I think I've got a good long-term business. And I would really like to work with my kids. I think that's really special to work with me. Being the second generation, I think I can do it hopefully more effectively than my dad did it on a different thing. I really want the absolute best for the kids. But you got to see what they're into.
Yeah.
Part of me, I just might sell it and use the money. And one of my kids wants to own a restaurant, go work in the restaurant business for 5 years and come back with an idea, and we'll go. But I really want to make sure my kids work hard and are doing something that they love, not just getting into the business because I happen to love this business, but maybe they don't. I don't know. It's really hard.
Well, you'd certainly been through the ringer, but it sounds like you have a great business and a great outlook on the.
Well, I'll leave you with this because I think it's important. People, I heard this from my half brother that he's been fairly successful too. He's if you're happy, if you're happy where you are now, don't complain about the past because it got you there.
Yeah.
Right?
Love that. Yeah.
I'm here today by all the decisions, all the things that happened, the good and the bad. And
Absolutely.
family businesses, sometimes there's a lot of bad, there's some great things too. And but if you like where you are today, don't look at the past in a negative way because it got you here, even if it was bad stuff.
In this segment, step siblings David Colby and Amy Brusky, G2 leaders of Colby Corp, talk more about leadership transition lessons learned from succeeding a founder and how family businesses can evolve while remaining true to their core values.
It's a credit to Kathy because it's so hard as a founder, right? Especially to realize that, hey, my heart's not in it anymore to do some of these aspects of the business, and I need to hand some of this off. And obviously, it sounded like it took a little bit of, conversation to
Yeah.
make that happen. Right?
Well, I think the main thing is with a founder, like that's how she felt, which was absolutely true. One of the lessons we learned was the first phase of it was, oh, great. So she doesn't have to do any of that stuff, but she still likes to come into the office. There are people she wants to brainstorm with, and there are other things that she's doing that, where she wants some of those resources. A founder isn't going to come into the office, see things happening that she disagrees with, and keep her mouth shut.
Right.
She wasn't like that. Maybe
Yeah.
some, but that's definitely the exception of the founders that I know.
Yeah.
So we kind of learned, okay, she needs to not have an office in the office, and we need to go to her more. So that's, she still had an office. It was a satellite one. This is kind of before remote work, but that was one of the lessons that we had to learn.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she would tell other founders all the time, you have to get out of the building.
Yeah.
But the challenge is everyone thinks the founder's going to go retire, and so many of them have these creative juices that have to be put into something else. So
Definitely.
until we made that transition and she really found something she was striving to do, it was painful. And I always tell a pizza story about one time when she came back for a staff meeting. And she was just going to participate in the staff meeting, say hello to people and go. And I had ordered pizza, and she immediately started criticizing the pizza that I ordered. How much I ordered. There's not enough meat here. I mean, this kind of thing. And I have a pretty long fuse, but I just lost it. I went in the other room with her and I said, are we really going to talk about the pizza? Because if you cannot trust me to order pizza, I cannot help run this company. And so it became this funny event that happened where then she understood how ridiculous it was at that minute, in that moment. But it's hard. I don't want to minimize how hard it really is. And we don't know. We can't put ourselves in the shoes of the founder to see, it's your baby. So you have to just not be in it all the time and allow us to make mistakes and make decisions that don't work out and learn from those. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's a really credit to all of you that you started these difficult conversations, well ahead of the time when the actual full transition happened. Because obviously that's the best way to do it, but it's much easier said than done. And it doesn't sound like it was easy in every case with you. But Amy, I love what you said about the creative juices, right? It's such a good way to think about it, especially with a founder, but really with anybody whose life is devoted to running, especially a family business. It's almost like asking a painter to stop painting or a musician to stop making music and go do something else. You know what I mean? Like it's time for you to focus on something else. People who have that in them, it's really hard. They can't really stop doing it. They have to put that energy towards something, right? And I think that's a good way to look at it and maybe understand why people hold on for so long.
Yeah. And just assume that need is there. So they're going to keep coming into the office and trying to be a part of solving problems. People will continue to keep striving in some way, especially, I'm not saying no one retires because they do, but we see, especially with founders that are exceptionally creative and have built things, they have the need to keep doing that for many, many years. Yeah. Into their late career. Yeah.
And Amy, you mentioned, I saw a quote where you said that Kathy basically taught you that success is having the freedom to be yourself. And I was wondering how that philosophy shaped the culture of the business today, and how do you each preserve that spirit while leading this business?
Well, yeah, and that's fundamental to some of what we certainly do with our clients is helping people discover their strengths and then build this ideal job and career around that. But I was really miserable in a career that on the outside looked incredibly successful. I was on the path that I wanted, but how I was getting there, I did not realize at the time was completely opposite of what I needed to be doing with my strengths. And so at one point she asked me that question, well, how do you define success? And I said, well, success is, working hard and being on this path. And I had gotten promotions and I was making more money. And that's when she said the phrase, well, I consider success the freedom to be yourself. And that was so
Right.
foreign to me. And at this point, obviously, I was not in the business.
Yeah.
I was doing something else and learning a lot more about Colby and what she did. But it was this really important lesson that I learned where I absolutely changed everything about my career. I ended up quitting my job and deciding I was not going to be in this position where I had to work against my strengths, and got on a journey to discovering what do I do naturally. And as David said, everyone has an instinctive or natural way of solving problems, making decisions, and getting things done. And the more that we can discover what that is about ourselves, then we can build this amazing career built on your strengths. And when it comes to the business, the same thing has to happen. We have to make sure that we are hiring people that are able to flourish in that same way and can be kind of in the zone where they're building it on their strengths. And what it means to David and me is that we have to make sure that we're in these amazing roles where we get to use our strengths. It works because we each get to stay in our own lane. I mean, David has strengths, as he said, as a lawyer. He really is excellent with focusing on the financials and some of the things where you really need the detail and the expertise that he has. I get to focus on doing trainings and presentations that I love and creating conceptual things and focusing on the operations. And
Yeah.
so that clarity helps make some of the decisions so easy. And that's the only way we find people have sustainable success. People stay in careers where they get to be in the zone. I don't know.
Yeah.
David, what else would you add to that?
Oftentimes it's like, as you're talking about the way we divide up what we do, I think it's easier because you're my sister. Like, I just know I have confidence. I trust that you don't need to tell me what's going on for a long time, because I know when I need to know, you're going to come tell me, and vice versa. I think, on the finance side, you trust me. And by the way, I know it doesn't always work this way in families either. Sometimes there's a
Yeah.
lot of distrust in families, but
Yeah.
we've got it where I handle the finances, and I'm going to bring you in and tell you everything you need to know. You can always ask,
Sure.
but because we trust each other, we also know, oh, you're not going to try to take something over as an ego play. I know if you're trying to do it, it's because you really think you're the best person to do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what happens in a lot of traditionally in family businesses, hopefully this doesn't happen as much anymore, is the oldest child will
It still
inherit the
happens, Amy.
business.
Don't kid
Okay.
yourself.
I'm being Pollyanna. Yeah. The oldest child, or it's the son, or it's whatever reason you're picking the one kid who should be the person to take over the company or be the top position. And if you really build it around your strengths, all of that kind of, hopefully we can manage some of that expectation where I don't want to go into a role that's not suited for me. And
Yeah.
David is the right person because he's the right person, not because he's the son or because he's the oldest, for the CEO role. So I think those decisions just become a little bit easiher.
Yeah.
And I'm
Absolutely.
only older than you by 4 months, so
I
don't
know.
make me
We're
sound so
the
old.
same age.
That's a good point too. Well, so let's kind of tie this all together with this last question, and it's not an easy question, I don't think, but we talked about honoring the founder's legacy while also making space to move forward as the next generation. We talked about making sure that people are in roles that they're suited to. Based on your own experience and the experience you've seen working with businesses, family businesses, what do you think separates the ones that successfully evolve across generations versus the ones that fall apart during leadership transitions, whatever generation it might be?
Wow, that's a great question. There's so many different reasons, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
some of them fail. I mean, I'll start with why I think we're doing pretty well. I know it's only, a year since my mom died, but um, part of it was starting the transition early. Part of it was she was very distinct about what she believed in and how she thought the business should be. She really did drive the culture when she was here. And even for a while when she wasn't technically in the company, she still was an important cultural piece to the business. She'd come to holiday parties and she'd come to important gatherings, and um, we've been able to transition that because although she was still important in that, she also did give enough leeway that the legacy was going to change. It didn't have to be frozen in amber and stuck the way it was in 1992 or whatever year you want to pick.
Yeah.
But it is a difficult thing to navigate, and the harder part for us again was when she was here, and Amy and I would we wanted to change some of the culture of the business while she was still around. I think that was harder.
Yeah.
In the years since she's been gone, I think some of that angst, like at least inside myself, I don't worry as much about, oh, well, what's mom going to think? Because mom really just wanted the business to go on. As Amy mentioned, we're really mission driven.
Yeah.
She wanted the mission to continue, and she trusted us to run the business. So if Amy and I think this is the best way to run the business so it's successful and keeps the mission going, that's great. I think a lot of people, and that means families in this context, I think they get hung up sometimes on, well, we'd have to do it the way dad or granddad or grandma or mom, whatever, whoever the founder, and sometimes it isn't the founder, it could even be second generation, but it's the person who grew it to whatever size.
Yeah.
Wow, that important person, we've got to do just what they do. Well, the world's not the way it was when they were doing it that way. And if you don't allow things to change and evolve, the business is going to go away.
Yeah.
That I guess is maybe one of the consistent things is businesses that just can't let go of the way that strong personality, whether that's a family member or not, but it's harder, I think, in family situations to let that go. You're not dishonoring the person when the business changes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm thinking in the context a lot about running the business and the confidence of our employees. And, as cliche as it is, I will say having shared values, having values that we have really drilled down and we talk about makes some of the decisions easier. And I feel like those fundamentally have not really changed. David and I might describe them differently, or we might focus on them a little differently. And maybe we've evolved we have 4 kind of core values in our business. But that had to somewhat stay the same too after he passed away. I think that's the foundation that family businesses have to be built on is what are your family values? And then some of the other decisions just become easier.
This segment features an interview with 2 generations of leadership at Total Office Solutions, a family-owned provider of comprehensive office services from workplace planning, furnishing, and technology to moving and decommissioning. I chat with sisters Amy Manette Linton, who serves as Chief Operating Officer, and Megan Manette McDaniel, who serves as Vice President of National Accounts, as well as with their mother, Linda Manette, co-founder and co-principal of the company. They discuss the ongoing transition from G1 to G2 and their approach to growing a business that has employed generations of multiple families aside from their own. Hi all, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Linda, let me ask you this because you're the co-founder of this business. Let's set the foundation here by just giving a brief overview of Total Office Solutions, how it started nearly 40 years ago and how it's evolved over time.
Well, it's a complicated story, but I'll make it short and sweet.
Okay.
I was working for an insurance software company, and I was over the data center with 400 dumb terminals, which needed power supplies to run them. And my contract was running out. So I was calling vendors to come out and discuss with me what kind of services they could give me for the next 4 or 5 years for my computers, to function. And so I called out 3 different companies. And I called Michael, and he was working for a company. I don't know if I should tell who it was, but anyway, he came out and I told him the situation, what we needed, and interviewed with him and 2 other people. And so we hit it off and talked for 4 or 5 hours. Went on a date, took me to Dallas Mavericks game, and then again he
Nice.
took me to lunch one day and says, "Hey, I think we've got something here. I like you. You're smart. I think I'm going to start this company, and I need to know by 5 o'clock today if you're going to date me or others, because it work for what you're doing." And so
Yeah.
I was moving my data center from the first floor of the building up to the 3rd floor building, which causes running coax and cable and redefining connections and all of that. And so I went to my boss and explained I'd met this guy that was thinking about starting a business, and I kind of know what he needs to do. Why don't you interview him to see if he would work for the job? So they hit it off. Michael won the job without even really starting the company yet. And
Yeah.
he and I did the job over 2 weekends and pulled it off. And basically, I think that was the money that actually started this. And then we grew from there, moving computers for the bank industry that was downsizing back in 1987, through that part. I continued to work my job. We started that job. And then a year later, we got married, and Move Solutions history. We've gone from there, from moving computers to furniture to cubicles to just everything you can think of to do a one-shot move with one company rather than having 15 different vendors fussing and fighting. So
Yeah.
this is where we are today after nearly 40 years of business, and we're still together, got 2 beautiful daughters, and we're rocking and rolling. We're busy as heck.
I love it. And I love to ask this question of a founder, right? Because it's such a different mindset. As you mentioned, it started as like a sort of a little seed of an idea, and then it just snowballed, right?
Right.
So when you co-founded this business, you and Michael, did you envision you obviously you didn't have daughters at the time, but did you envision that this might be a multi-generational business?
No.
Yeah.
I thought this was a cute guy that had an idea. I had a job. He knew what he was doing. I could help him, and we started it,
Yeah.
and it was fun, and we continued to do it. And then, a year later, we're married, start having family, work them. We all work together. They know the business world, and just groomed them to follow us and grow like we do and have a great work ethic.
Yeah. And so what's it been like for you and Michael to watch this company evolve into a multi-generational leadership team with your daughters?
It's unbelievable. I'm blessed to have 2 smart, intelligent, educated, wonderful daughters. Wow.
Excellent. And
This is- I mean, no matter what, I have a problem, issue, one of them can help me, or they just take over and take care of it. And they know the process of the business, what we need, where we're going. They're sometimes one step ahead of me because I continue to do accounting, human resources, workers' comp. I do all that administration stuff. I'm not out in like they are with the jobs, the customers, and the people, the problems. I'm in here working. So that's
yeah.
we all have our own positions.
I think that's from all the interviews that I've done, I think that's the best way to do it, right? If everybody is trying to do the same job, it doesn't work. It doesn't work too well. And so Amy, I'll start with you on this one. I just asked your mom, whether she had ever envisioned this becoming a multi-generational family business. For you, what made you want to join this business after, I assume, really growing up around it? And what was your path into the business?
So an interesting path. I was always every day off of school, every summer I spent working in accounting with my mom. So I don't know that I wanted to do anything else. I mean, I got to hang out with my friends, but like I would go and work with
Yeah.
my mom. Did
Yeah.
that for a long time, went to college, kind of formed my own path there. Went to do wine sales for a company, was engaged and then was not. Realized I was good at sales and that Dallas was really small. And a lot of friends knew that I was engaged and that I wasn't. And so I decided, hey, maybe I want to get out of the city. And I called my parents and I was like, hey, any chance you guys would take a chance on me and like let me work for one of your companies just to like figure things out?
Yeah.
And I got if you interview and you get past the test, then sure, you can work there.
Yeah.
I did. I moved to Austin. About 4 months after I was hired, our general manager quit. I became the general manager of the Austin office. So I was a salesperson and a general manager for about 11 years there. And then about 7 years ago, the opportunity came to take over the Dallas office and start the succession process. And I jumped at it without even a question.
Yeah.
So my evolution was I don't know if it was intentional. It was definitely focused. I
Yeah.
worked in just about every department. I started straight out of college. I have a degree in marketing, and I couldn't find a marketing job without a what did they call it? A portfolio at that point in time.
Right.
You can't build
Yeah.
a portfolio if you don't have a company to work for. So I went to my dad and I was like, "You guys have never done this. Can I work on your stuff?" So I built a portfolio and then never used the portfolio. I've dabbled in just about every position intentionally. I think Megan's done the same thing just to learn the different aspects of the business. And that I think has made me realize the evolution. I mean, I grew up on job sites. I would sit in the parking lot and be like, this is so cool to see like what my parents started has then become something more. And then today being able to watch trucks literally pass us as we're, staring out the window across from us. It's a cool story to be a part of.
Yeah.
I can't say that I ever thought I would be here consciously, but I think I'm here for a reason.
Yeah. Well, three things I love about that story is first of all, that you grew up around the business, you worked in the business when you were young, and that actually made you more interested in it and wanted to join it, which a lot of times it has the opposite effect on people when they grow up around a business that young. They're like, all right, I need to get away from this. And I think it's cool that you actually enjoyed it. I think it's cool that when you asked about coming back to actually formally join the business after going out on your own for a little bit, the response was, yeah, if you interview, that's the interview. It wasn't just a given thing, right? And then I also just think that idea of like dabbling in all the different aspects of the business and really learning it from the ground up, so you can become more well-rounded is really great. And so, Megan, what's your story and your path into the business?
It's been interesting. I'm the younger sister, and I feel like that haunts me sometimes with love. And, I grew up in the business. I've never known anything else. I was born 4 or 5 years after the business was started and kind of thrown into the fire of that's just, in my mind, this is how families function. Like, what do people talk about at dinner? If you're not,
Right.
like, what do you talk about? Like, how your day was? And so I
Yeah.
remember super vividly when I was little talking to Amy when she was in high school and college, what she was going to do. And for some reason, I have this like thought of you being like a math teacher. That was her, like, originally that was my path. Yeah. Like she wanted
Yeah.
to, right. And
Right.
fell off, I couldn't tell you. But looking back, I remember playing like pretend with my friends and we'd play have a job. And I never could say, oh, I'm going to be a vet or I'm going to be a teacher or I'm going to be a school bus driver or whatever it is, right? But that was way left. um, it was always just an assumption in my brain that I was going to come here and do something. I don't think it was always, I'm going to take over Move Solutions. I'm going to be my mom and dad. Don't know what that meant when I was little. And so, like Amy, I grew up playing in bobtails and riding on dollies and doing the work with the guys. And every holiday was in the office, etc. So went to college, have a degree in entrepreneurship and marketing, and ended up working, part-time in the office through that, which was a great experience. I graduated, sat down in front of my dad and said, hey, I graduated. When do I start?
Yeah.
He laughed at me and said, that sounds great, but in a couple of years. And I was just dumbfounded. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I just got this great education. I've been working with you. And he said, you need to go get experience somewhere else. Well, if
Yeah.
you know that I'm pretty stubborn. And so I ended up going to a couple of the friendly competitors that we have saying, hey, I'm free game. I need a job.
Yeah.
And I had
Yeah.
offers again from friendly competitors that we all grew up in the same world. And they knew what I was doing, right? Gave me these 15 offers, sat down in front of my dad, said, hey, Dad, Sunday morning, cup of coffee, his big marble desk. We're talking like, hey, I interviewed. I have these offers. Help me pick one. And I remember I keep saying the word vividly, but I just have this burnt into my brain of him, being so proud, having this coffee cup and moment and looking at the name of the first company and looking at me like, what? And then yeah. He in dad fashion, both my parents are wonderful and they've always really tried to instill a work ethic is they took the lowest offer and cut it in half and said, this is what you will make for the first year, which was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Sarcastically. And I think it was hey, if you can stick through the first year, you're going to be okay. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, from then to now, yesterday was actually my officially getting a paycheck for 12-year anniversary.
Wow.
No.
12
And
years.
and so where Amy's kind of started in sales originally, I flipped, and now she's in operations and management and leading the firms. I was a little bit different, and that I had the opportunity to go into different parts of our companies and help not necessarily make them better, but make them more efficient, make them run more to KPIs, change different things, help change out people, give my opinion. But what that did for me is gave me a really well-rounded vision of how our companies work. And then
Yeah.
in 2019, I kind of at night got into sales. One of the older, one of the tenured, not older, but one of the tenured sales guys was busy and he saw me and was like, "Hey, why aren't you in sales yet?" And I was like, "My dad and my mom don't think that I'm ready yet." So he's like, "Let me teach you." So I spent probably 4 months after hours learning how to do sales of what we did while running part of the companies, and sat down in front of mom and dad one day and said, "Hey, I sold $100,000 this month. I think I'm in sales now." It- Since then, I was taken off of that other position. Now I'm in sales. I'm the vice president of global accounts for what we do and love. And so it's never, getting back to your question, is it's not really ever been a question of where I'm going to work, but how I'm going to work and why. And
Yeah.
the vision has always been to run and own these companies with my sister. I mean, since I was very little, it's just I've never had anything else in my brain of what I could do and win. So
Yeah. I I love that. And Amy, you mentioned this idea of being intentional, right? And it sounds like everything that you all do and your parents do has always been intentional. It's not, you don't just, fall into working in the family business. You have to earn your way. What was the actual succession process like? And Amy talked about, like, we started the succession process, right? So what was that actually like? And then Megan, what was that like for you?
Well, we, I don't know how many years ago, went through an organization, a company that we hired, that we were part of a group of second and third generation family companies that were working through succession. And so we spent 18 months in that program, working
Wow.
through defining what that looks like, where each family is, what your strengths and weaknesses are. I mean, we had to give presentations that both of us hated.
filler with,
Well, it's one of those where it's like you're talking to your peers and your peers are just sitting there judging you, and you're like, we all know what you're going to say because we're all going to say the same things.
Yeah.
But we started that. We're still in the early stages. I mean, we're still running the business day to day. And so it has to be a more directive away from normal business hours. And so
Yeah.
that's where we spend more time working about strategy and talking about things like that. We're we're working through that on an every hour basis. I feel like there's always
Yeah.
something different to talk about and to discuss and bring in the conversation as it happens. So I would say it's evolving all day long, every day.
I mean, and I'll jump in and say, everybody who's listening and reading that are in family businesses, that on the outside it looks nice and bright, and shiny and fun, and you get to work with your mom every day, and that doesn't mean that it's not hard, and it's a different level of hard, and hard conversations that, it's not just about us four in this room. My dad's not in here, but it's about the people that we employ that trust us to have a
Yeah.
paycheck every other week. It's keep the lights on. It's 401k programs. It's PTO. It's much more, and it's deeper than just us four. And so having those conversations, I feel like, especially with Amy and my background and how my parents raised us, that we're able to have those hard conversations. And earlier I mentioned what people talk about at the dinner table. What do you talk about at Christmas and Thanksgiving and on a Saturday? I mean, a lot of the time families, really try to keep it separate. But when you're in the middle of a succession plan and a changeover, it's everywhere. And so it's good, it's great, it's happy, it's all of the spectrum of emotions, as well as just, it's I don't want to say it's anxiety driven because that's not the right word, but it's exciting. excited.
Yeah.
And okay, well, when's the next shoe going to drop? What are we going to do? What's the next turn that we need to also evaluate? Who's taking that part over? Who's better set? Who's leading the firms? Who's handling the operations and the evolution of the different sets of companies that we do have? So that's kind of
It's a blessing and a challenge all in the same.
yes. And if you
Definitely.
know Amy and I, we both like what is it? Controlled chaos.
I thrive in chaos.
Yes. Most
Well-
respectful way. Like our companies are very great and they're structured and lots of process.
But running,
driven.
we've always called it in our family running to the loose football. I mean, although we're
Yeah.
an end, the analogy sticks where something that the ball is being dropped or there's something that needs to be handled, one of us is going to pick it up, talk to the other and be like, hey, where are you here? What do you think? What have you done? What's your background? What's your history? How have you handled this before? And take that. And I think we're really good about utilizing that amongst us. And even when we don't always agree, and we don't always have the right answers, we navigate that pretty well together.
Yeah. And accountability is a big one. We all hold each other really accountable. And I feel like we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't have that. And that's the example that, our parents have set for us. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, you never know when they're going to call. They've got balls jumping everywhere, and we just try to please everybody. Everything works out. Just breathe. We'll take care of it. We'll pull people from here or here and handle it. I mean, we've got employees that's been here as long as I have. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we've got about 300 employees here, and we just everybody loves working here. I mean, I've seen people come here young, get married, have children,
Buy houses,
buy
retire.
houses.
But yeah,
We just had someone retire, 65 years old, and he'd been here
37 years.
37 years,
amazing.
raised
Yeah.
a family, and now he's retired. I'm not ready to retire, but
Right.
well,
Right.
I like coming to work. I like being with my people. They know me, I know them, I know everybody. So do they. So it's a family-owned business, but we all feel like we're all working for the same thing.